The ATHS Golden Achievement Award recognizes men and women involved in trucking for 50 or more consecutive years. We are proud to present this award to 8 outstanding individuals. Manuel Andrade bought his first truck, a 1966 Peterbilt 281, in 1968 after driving for a few years. He worked as an owner-operator pulling bottom dump trailers. In 1971, Manuel bought a 20-foot aluminum end dump and started hauling gunite sand for swimming pools. In 72, he ordered his first new truck, a Peterbilt 359, which he still owns today. Over the next 5 decades, Manuel, with the help of his wife Angie, grew a company that is a regionally recognized name. He has always been an advocate for the trucking industry, including working with the California PUC to guarantee better rates, and was a key figure in the founding of the Bay Counties Dump Truck Association. Manuel now serves as the Northern California RVP for ATHS. As a member of ATHS, he has taken trucks from coast to coast and points in between to attend the national shows. Terry Bossman's uncle founded Linden Transport in the early 1940s. In 1963, Terry quit high school and started driving a truck. In 1982, he purchased his first truck, a Kenworth K100, which he still owns. He drove this truck until 1995 when he bought a T900 and drove it for the next 10 years. In 2005, he got his latest truck, a T800, and is still driving it. Terry's 3 sons also work for the company, with Troy and Tad driving trucks and Trent working as a mechanic and handling the books. Over the years, Terry has accumulated more than 6 million miles. Bruce began his trucking career driving for Britsky Farms at the age of 14. He worked on weekends and summers while he was still in school. In 1963, he worked for the local Ford dealership selling parts. Then in 1971, he became a full-time driver for Raleigh Trucking Company out of Chino, California. After a couple of years, he started Caballero Trucking Company, hauling sand and gravel as an owner-operator. He handled the repairs of his trucks and became quite a proficient mechanic, and even had other drivers and trucking companies asking him to do repairs on their trucks. With this shift, he started Bruce Caballero Enterprises, featuring a mobile heavy-duty truck repair service in 1983. He has been doing this in the Southern California area ever since. Bruce worked the first Southern California ATHS chapter show in 1984 alongside ATHS past president Rollin Smith, and he is currently a board member for the chapter. At the young age of 15, Frank Carr began working in the hayfields of Ellensburg, Washington to help support his 7 siblings and mother. When he got his driver's license, his first truck driving job was for Jim Ritter, hauling hay from Ellensburg to the coast and California. In 1964, Frank started driving for his future father-in-law, Slim Cooey, at Aurora Farm and Garden in Linwood, Washington. Frank took notice of Slim's cute daughter and eventually married her and have stayed that way for the last 52 years. A couple of years later in 1966, he started with Western Tank Lines, where he drove for the next 10 years. He then took a big leap and became an owner-operator, purchasing a 1974 Kenworth out of Texas. Frank and his brother-in-law Jerry Cooey drove the truck home to Linwood. His new venture was hauling fuel to Carl's Service Station truck stop in Ellensburg and lasted for 6 years. Of course, there was always coffee and a hot meal next door at Marble's Cafe. Frank hauled hay, fuel, beer, and many other freight loads up and down I-5. In 2015, Frank ended his trucking career with Laudenbach Industries out of Mount Vernon, Washington. Over the years, the industry has changed from phone booths to cell phones, and the ever-increasing power in the newer trucks. Frank's CB handle was Horse with no name, and he was known for always keeping his trucks driving spotless. Today, Frank is enjoying retirement with his wife Joanne and sons Greg and Jeff and grandson Kyle. Frank's 1974 Kenworth is his pride and joy. At the 1979 truck show in Spokane, he received the first place trophy for tanker trucks and was runner-up for overall show. Kenny started his trucking career as a young boy, riding along with his dad. He survived his first rollover in a logging truck at the age of 12. Luckily, it was a slow rollover. Ken started driving a 1947 GMC farm truck hauling hay, fertilizer, cattle, and farm equipment for his parents' family farm as a young teenager. In the spring of 1969, shortly after his 18th birthday, his dad gave him the chance to take over the loading and log hauling of all timber harvest from the family tree farm. Ken's first truck was a brand new 1969 Kenworth W900A. Over the years, he has owned a total of 3 Kenworth W900As, including a 1973 and a 1979. All 3 were fitted with hydraulic self-loaders and hop-on logging trailers. Ken has also been active in the Oregon Log Truckers Association, Oregon Logging Conference, Pacific Northwest Truck Museum, and ATHS. Although he is starting to slow down a bit, he still stays active by working on his tree farm and ranch and consulting with the newer and upcoming generation of owner-operator truckers. Most importantly, he is working for the preservation of antique farming and logging trucks of the Pacific Northwest, including a complete restoration of a 1926 Ford Model T logging truck with a matching original 1926 Kingham truck bunt and trailer. Ernie started driving in 1953 at the age of 18 with off-highway logging, driving a late 1940s Euclid dump truck on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. After bouncing around logging and construction companies for a few years, he switched gears to long-haul trucking in the mid-1950s, running a sleeper team from Vancouver to Toronto and Montreal. Back then, most of the driving was through the United States, since the Trans-Canada Highway had yet to be built. He kept this up until 1975, when he went back to local driving, and then in 1978, he switched to management. He retired in 2002, but went back to truck driving part-time for his youngest son for a few more years. Around 1965, he started a refrigeration company with his brother, but he didn't see the potential of reefers at the time and sold out and went back to driving. That business continues today as British Columbia's only Thermo King dealer. In 1969, he represented BC at the National Truck Driving Championships. He is a founding member of the pre-1965 line drivers of BC Group and has been an ATHS member since 2002. Georgie McClanahan started working with her dad, driving her truck with construction fencing equipment, doing work along now I-84 outside Huntington, Oregon in 1966. In 1974, she got her Class 1 license driving a big rig in the dirt with a set of double bottom dumps for Silva Trucking. Over the years, she has worked for many trucking companies with a variety of trucks, including a 1965 Peterbilt with a 2-stick transmission, a semi-bottom belly truck, and an end-dump 40-footer. She joined the Teamsters and would go in the hall every day to see about getting a union job. She finally went to work for S.J. Groves & Son, driving a cat wagon, water truck, boom truck, and cement mixer at the Parrots Ferry by Columbia, California, and the bridge construction across the Stanislaus River. In 1978, she bought her own truck, a 1965 Kenworth. She has worked on many infrastructure jobs, including finishing I-5 by Rio Vista, California, building of the Malone's Dam outside of Jamestown, California, the I-205 bridge from Washington to Government Island in the middle of the Columbia River, and the Cascade Locks. She has also done work for the Forestry Service, using her water truck for dust abatement, watering roads, control burns, and fighting forest fires. She has also hauled wood chips and flatbed lumber, potatoes, and various other loads all over the U.S. She is still loading trucks for Davison & Sons, T2 Incorporated, and many other companies. George Van Dyke was born in Friesland, Holland in 1945. He and his family immigrated to Southern California when he was only 2, and he grew up on a dairy farm. In 1968, the family moved the dairy to Oregon, and a year later, George bought a 1957 GMC to use for hauling hay from Central Oregon back to the dairy. He would work the early morning, 1 a.m., milking cows, then go after a load of hay, then back to milk the afternoon shift. The GMC was upgraded to a 1959 Freightliner, and then in late 1971, a new Peterbilt cabover. In 1972, George left the dairy to haul wood products and leased his truck to Independent Motor Transport out of Tangent, Oregon. In 1977, IMT sold out, and George hired one of their drivers, starting his own operation out of his home in Albany. The company was incorporated in 1981, and in 1987, George and his wife Marianne moved it into the former IMT truck shop in Tangent. The company still operates there and runs 20 trucks, hauling primarily wood products. Congratulations to all of our Golden Achievement Award recipients. The ATHS Company Award recognizes companies in continuous operation for 50 or more years. We are proud to present this award to 3 outstanding companies for 50 years and 1 amazing company for 75 years. Barry Swanson has loved trucks his entire life. In 1969, he purchased his first log truck and a brand new Diamond Rio from DSU in Portland, Oregon, starting Barry Swanson Trucking. Throughout the company's history, his trucks have hauled logs and lumber through the Pacific Northwest, including Washington, Idaho, Oregon, and Southeast Alaska. At one time, Barry had 33 trucks on the road. Today, he runs 20 log trucks. For the last 45 years, he has been the primary log hauler for Dahlgren Logging in Forks, Washington. Currently, Barry is downsizing the business and has sold 3 of his trucks to employees, though he is still driving and managing the company. Jim Dobbs incorporated his business on April 1st, 1968. He felt it was fitting as he didn't think it was going to make it anyway. Fortunately for California's railroads, his pessimism was ill-founded. From a single truck, hired out to haul heavy loads, Jim Dobbs Incorporated has grown to be a premier heavy equipment contractor, specializing in emergency and derailment response service for Class 1 railroads such as the Union Pacific and Burlington Northern Santa Fe. From its yard in Newcastle, northeast of Sacramento, the company now serves Northern California, Northern Nevada, and Southern Oregon. The railroad-related work makes up about 80% of the company's business, with the rest outside transportation and heavy equipment hauling. A crew of about 40 employees man the fleet excavators, loaders, dozers, trucks and trailers, and other heavy equipment. Jim was fascinated with trucks since he was a young boy. While still a student at Placer High School in Auburn, Jim bought a 1932 Ford school bus, hoping to get it running in auto shop. When that didn't work out, he bought a running 1931 Chevy truck, and then after graduation, bought a new Chevy 2-ton truck. Before starting his own company, he was a dispatcher for another company and finally decided to go out on his own. The company got its big break in 1973, when a train containing 21 freight cars, each carrying 330 bombs and bound for Vietnam, exploded in the massive Roseville Rail Yard, then owned by the Southern Pacific Railroad. Hot breaks caused by the descent from the Sierra had caused some of the car's wooden floors to catch fire. Jim and Don, who took over as president in 1990 and assumed ownership in 2000, attributed the company's success and longevity to excellent employees and sheer tenacity. In 1955, John Lemons started working with his brother Robert, hauling wood chips, sawdust, hog fuel, ground bark, and planer shavings from 3 different mills. John was Robert's 7th employee, and the business had 4 Internationals, 1 Diamond T, 3 axle trucks with large dump boxes, a 2-axle Dodge with a large dump box, and a flatbed International for hauling slab wood. In 1957, he added 2 new International 3-axles, also with large dump boxes. In the fall of 1963, John left the business to go back to school and rejoined the company in 1970 by purchasing half interest with the understanding that he would purchase the remaining half when Robert retired. In 1972, Robert did retire, and the company name was changed from Robert Lemons Trucking to Lemons Trucking Incorporated. By 1996, the 50th year, many changes had been made in the industry. They were moving most of the wood products with tractor-trailer units, with 20-plus trucks and 30-plus employees. John retired in 2005, and business continues today under ownership of his son Larry and grandson Ray. Cummins Engine Company was established in 1919 as a manufacturer of oil engines under licensed limousine and demonstrated the viability of the engine in the automotive field. By 1932, a handful of trucks from R.M. Hibbett, founder Plessy C.L. Cummins, soon embarked on a series of design improvements in the 1920s and was all but finished off by the 1929 market crash. But CL put diesel power in a Packard, an innovation that remain a hallmark of the company today. The fledgling company struggled through running in American commerce with Cummins diesel power. By 1944, there were some 5,000 Cummins diesels powering trucks for the U.S. Armed Forces around the world. After testing in the crucible of competition at the Indianapolis 500, the company introduced turbocharging and the PT fuel system in the mid-50s and soon secured fully half of the U.S. on-highway truck market. When the interstate highways allowed for heavier loads and higher speeds, Cummins delivered ever-increasing horsepower. When the energy crisis made fuel economy critical, Cummins stepped up with the Formula Series and other steady enhancements to reduce fuel usage. And all along the way, the company demonstrated its commitment to resourceful stewardship by producing the engines and technology that reduce exhaust emissions everywhere they may be operated. Cummins today ranks within the Fortune 200 and employs some 58,000 people worldwide. Congratulations to all our company award recipients. The ATHS Historian of the Industry Award recognizes individuals who have been diligent in the pursuit of the history of the trucking industry for 10 years or more. Jerry Aaron has been exploring the vastness of Nevada and the Great Basin in pursuit of its history for most of his life. His love affair of trucks started with a ride in his uncle's auto car at the age of 6. That ride in 1948 led to a trucking career spanning 45 years. Jerry has written 3 books about the trucking industry in Nevada: Diesel Smoke Over Asphalt Ribbons, Dreams in the Rearview Mirror, Nevada's Teamster Truckers and Truck Stops, a chronicle of Nevada's Great Basin. His books reflect his passion for trucking and the amazing landscapes of Nevada. Dale started collecting trucking company patches while working at the International Factory in the 1970s. He found it a very interesting hobby, and almost every company had patches. His collection grew through the years. In 2005, he started showing his collection off at his local ATHS chapter meetings and truck shows. At the time, the patches were in photo albums, and carrying 300 to 400 patches around that way was very difficult. He built big displays and now can show off over 3,000 patches at one time. He has been going to all ATHS conventions since 2009 and makes as many local ATHS shows as he can in the Midwest. He is also a regular at the Iowa 80 Truckers Jamboree each year in Walcott, Iowa. Dale also collects as much literature on trucking as he can and has helped others writing books and doing research through the year. Congratulations to our Historian of the Industry Award recipients.